Hey everybody, today I'm in Zionsville, Indiana, although if you're here, it may not exactly feel like it. And in this video, we're actually going to talk about that. So when you are on the outskirts of a place like Zionsville or West Carmel or East Fishers, or you get into a lot of parts of Westfield on the north side or Noblesville, or even some of the suburbs on the west side like Brownsburg, Avon, and Plainfield, once you get on the outskirts, it can have a really different feel. And sometimes that feel can be a really good fit for somebody, and sometimes it might not. So in this video, we're going to talk about that feel whenever you're on one of the outskirts of a suburb like that, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in a place like Zionsville, Indiana, Carmel, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video each and every week. And we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions about places like Zionsville, like Carmel, Fishers, Avon, Plainfield, and of course Indianapolis too. So if you have questions at all about any of those places, Indianapolis or any of the surrounding metro, then don't hesitate to reach out any way that you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move to Indianapolis or any of the surrounding areas. Again, today I'm in Zionsville, Indiana, and I'm actually in a really nice neighborhood on the far, far north side of Zionsville. Now, Zionsville, it's a popular suburb, under 30,000 people on the northwest side, and it's a very, very nice place and very, very popular too, although just not one of the biggest suburbs out there, being under 30,000 people. But when you get into Zionsville, or you get into, let's say, even as a better example, a place like Carmel, it's really a city. And although Zionsville is a town technically, but it has all the amenities, it has everything that you could possibly need, like grocery stores, Super Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, all of those kinds of things. And you feel like you're very, very close to those when you're in the city itself. You know, if you look over into, of course, Indianapolis, it's 900,000 people going on 1 million. Of course, it feels very urban, very city. But if you get into a place like Carmel, which is a little over 100,000 people, it can feel that way too. You know, so you're going to have some traffic, although the traffic here in Indiana and Indianapolis in the area, it's just not all that bad, truthfully. But it's a little more dense, more people around, and a little more traffic around. And some people really like that. They like to be near essentially everything that they're going to need. But if you get into a neighborhood like this, it feels, of course, like a neighborhood when you're in it. There are houses, you have neighbors, and feels very residential. But when you get outside of this, given that this is on the northern end, far, far northern end of Zionsville, when you get out of this, it might feel like, where am I? Am I in Zionsville or am I in the country? Is this extremely rural? So when you get out, I mean, it might just be fields, it might be some rolling hills here and there, and it also might be some trees. That's actually one of the surprising things about a lot of people who visit this particular area of Indiana, is that they're shocked at how green things are. Although this video here, everything is really super green because it's early spring in this, but we don't have leaves on the trees quite yet. But they're surprised at how green things are and how full things are and how many trees there are. There are absolutely more trees in Indiana than what most people think, especially if you get into southern Indiana, where it gets much, much hillier and much more wooded. There's a lot of that. Northern Indiana is a little more flat and certainly going to have less trees because there's more farms. So Indianapolis in this area is kind of right in between that. But when you get outside of this neighborhood, it can have that particular kind of feel, like it is rural. So here's a great example. I am just outside of the neighborhood that I was just in, and I mean, I'm talking just outside of it. So roughly a minute, maybe a minute and a half of driving just out of the center of the neighborhood where I was and right out here onto the road. And it's not completely rural. And there's a guy over here mowing his grass, his lawn, but it feels that way. So if you were driving down some of these roads here in northern Zionsville, you would think, am I close to anything at all? And the truth is, really are. I mean, it is very difficult if you've got, let's say, a Zionsville address, or a Carmel address, or a Fishers address, or even a Plainfield, Avon, Brownsburg address. If that is what you put on your envelope, and you're in a place where it feels incredibly rural, there's no way in the world that you actually are. It's just kind of cool that you can get that feeling in some of these places still. So Zionsville, it's growing. It's not growing nearly as fast as some of the other suburbs are, and it's still fairly small, but if you're looking at new construction, things like that, this is kind of the area where a lot of that's going to happen. Or if you go a little bit west of here, over towards Whitestown. So if you go west of here, speaking of Whitestown and I-65, that goes right up through Zionsville, actually a little bit to the west of Zionsville, and there's tons of commercial through there. So basically everything that you're possibly going to need, especially on a daily basis. And then if you go east of here, you get over to 421, which is Michigan Road, extending north out of Indianapolis. That is just extremely commercial as well. So it's kind of a replica of what you would find over there off of I-65 when you get off the Whitestown exit into Zionsville, and you're gonna have everything in that particular spot. So you can get that rural feel here, but you're only a few minutes. I mean, that is literally just a few minutes in either direction from the location I'm standing, which feels like it would be out in the country a little bit. In fact, if you drive just a little bit down this road out to the west, some of what I would call country estates. I mean, these are some unbelievable huge properties and huge homes, and have a really cool feel in that they are out here. But if you get over into Carmel on the far northwest side, it can feel a little bit like this. That's where a lot of Carmel is expanding, a lot of the new construction is going in, and then it meets up with Westfield just to the north, where a lot of Westfield's expansion is actually happening out towards the west. Now Westfield is expanding in some other directions too, but out towards the west is where a lot of that's happening. And it does feel very, very rural. You can get out and feel like you're kind of in, at least in that particular part, a lot of farmland and a lot of open land, and it's actually really quite beautiful. It's pretty different. This is a little bit more unique than a spot like that west of Westfield and northwest Carmel, in that this just has a few more trees. There's a big dump truck rolling by here. Speaking of construction, there he goes. Kind of loud. So you'll see some of those here and there because of a lot of new construction neighborhoods in different areas, but this has a little more rolling terrain, a few more trees, and it has a little bit more of an established feel than if you get out there in that northwest part of Carmel and west of Westfield, which really was just farmland, and a lot of farmland is still there, but it's still really, really pretty and really cool. So there are other suburbs that can get a feel similar to this or similar to that all around the Indianapolis metro. So you get out on the south side, even into Greenwood, and you'll have new construction there on the outskirts, and you can get that rural feel. But if you've got a Greenwood address, you are close to everything that you need. You get over into Plainfield and Avon and Brownsburg, you go west of all of those, you're getting further from Indianapolis, but a lot of people don't really care about that. They know that they're close at least to those cities and the amenities that they provide and everything that they're gonna need on a daily basis. So if this is the kind of feel that you are looking for and you're geographically open to being in a number of different places around the Indianapolis metro, you have opportunities to have this, to where you feel like, it's just a little quieter, there's not as much traffic, other than, an occasional dump truck coming down a road like this. But since I've been standing here on this road, there's only been a handful of cars that have driven down it. So it is relatively quiet and not a whole lot going on, and it has that feel, but you can get into the action very, very easily, especially in a place like this, just going straight down I-65 or go down over to 421, and you're right in the thick of it, right where it gets back to a little more traffic, more people, more shops, stores, restaurants, things like that. But if you have questions about areas like this surrounding Indianapolis and all of those suburbs, then make sure that you reach out any way that you know how. We'll always be able to answer those questions for you. And until the next one, we'll see you later.